So disagree, yes, but still like move forward with it. But I would say disagree is different than those that argue. I used to be married to somebody who would always do this to me.
It's never going to work
with my ex.
It's not that you always have to do what we say, though that's recommended. But I don't want people to think that being coachable means you do what we say blindly. The goal is not to have people blindly do what we say. The goal is to have people think differently and to challenge assumptions and to, think about.
We are not everybody's cup of tea. Like at the end of the day, we're really clear about who we work with and why we work with them.
It can be hard to hire somebody and think that you're going to get X result, but you're not willing to do anything to do it. You just think that by hiring, it fixes the problem. And
even if you have somebody who's kind of on the peripheral, like, maybe they're kind of still a good fit, like you can make certain boundaries that will help you navigate that particular relationship. Sometimes you have to have a conversation.
Because there really is a difference between saying that's not going to work versus saying what would have to happen in order for that to work.
I've been consulting for over 15 years. And so definitely kissed a lot of frogs and evolved along the way, but
a lot of asses.
Yeah. Hey there, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badassory, the podcast. Listen, every entrepreneur deserves respect, but not every entrepreneur is ready for change. And we think it's an important distinction because this episode isn't about who's smart enough or talented enough or passionate enough to build a business. It's about who is actually willing to confront reality. And we don't work with perfect business owners because perfect business owners don't exist. We work with people who are willing to challenge their own thinking, to take responsibility, and to make different decisions. So today we're talking about the entrepreneurs who get the most value from working with us, ones who probably won't ever work with us.
AKA the entrepreneurs we can't help, won't help. What is that song? Won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not doing it. Okay. I'm super excited about this podcast. I mean, we've definitely spoke about it.
Behind closed doors.
Yeah. Well, no, also, but I mean, we do talk shit. We don't, and all the reels we send to one another, definitely. Could you imagine if our reels got leaked? That'd be great. But
that would be great.
Everyone feels that way at this point. Anyway, not the topic at hand. So entrepreneurs that we can't nor won't help, we'll say. I do want to preface that, and not to soften it, but you've heard us say it time and time again, we are not everybody's cup of tea. Like at the end of the day, we're really clear about who we work with and why we work with them and the results that they can get. And it's interesting because living in Bangkok for so long, I love being here. And I know that I can't work with almost all Thai companies just because of my aggression and the way that I am in type A and like no excuses and like fast moving and things like that. But that's just an example. So there's so many different reasons why we won't help them. And you kind of alluded to this, but I think the very first one, and it's a simple one, but it's complex at the same time, is are they coachable or not? And there's a few different nuances to it because there might be somebody who's coachable, but are they willing to be coachable by you? Right. So if we take it out of the context of what we do, and, we're not really coaches, we're more consultants, but still, like, are they willing to listen and do things? Right. And, but take it out of that term, look at sports coaches, right? I loved my CrossFit coach. I mean, I still do. He's still around, but obviously he's in Hawaii. I'm in Thailand. He was amazing at what he did, but he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. So he wasn't the right coach for everybody. In general, are they coachable? Are they willing to listen? Are they willing to take responsibility? Are they willing to put in the action? Are they willing to look behind those closed doors? Are they willing to open up? There are so many different nuances that make them coachable versus uncoachable. And again, if there are people, because if someone has a problem with cursing,
Dear Lord, that's the loudest profanity I've ever heard.
or I don't know, a bit raw and real kind of information, and like more type A and no sugarcoating, then they're not going to be coachable by us, because they will shut off and feel intimidated, or some kind of resistance. Not everybody feels intimidated, so please don't get defensive for those of you that might, but there's some kind of resistance there. Sometimes it's on a conscious level, but sometimes it's on a subconscious level. And so that first one, again, it's a simple one, but there are also some complexities. Are they coachable or not? And are they coachable by us or not?
And I want to also add to that it's not that you always have to do what we say, though that's recommended. In a lot of cases, that's recommended. But I don't want people to think that being coachable means you do what we say blindly. The goal is not to have people blindly do what we say. The goal is to have people think differently and to challenge assumptions and to, make intentional decisions. The worst outcome isn't the disagreement. The worst outcome is not making a decision at all. And we would rather somebody disagree and reject our recommendations after seriously considering the strategies behind it than to ignore it because it makes you uncomfortable, or you just don't want to do it, or you have the wrong thought about it. So it's not about doing what we say, though sometimes for me for one, when I get frustrated and things aren't working out, I'm like, if they would just do what I say, all this would go away. And sometimes that is the case. And it's not always the reason. We don't stop working with someone just because they don't do what we say. That's never the case. As long as they're not avoiding doing any of the work and then pushing off the blame on anybody else, because we can't want it more than you, because it never works out. I mean, there's plenty of times that I have wanted it more than my clients. That's my own issue. That's not a reason for me necessarily to fire you. But it does come into play if you don't do anything, if you don't make any decisions and you just kind of wait around for, I don't know, the skies to open up and an angel to come down and hand you a check. I don't know what people wait for, but
I think there's an expectation there, right? That we don't want to work with people who have those expectations that they're going to get results, but they're not willing to put in the work or willing to make those difficult decisions. Look at those things through a different angle. So I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really tough place to be, because I know that neither Lynn nor I are cheap. We're not $2 an hour. So it can be hard to hire somebody and think that you're going to get X result, but you're not willing to do anything to do it. You just think that by hiring, it fixes the problem. And I've seen that happen before, like, oh, well, I'm hiring a consultant. I finally buckled down and hired a consultant, so that's going to solve the problem. We can tell you what the problem is. We can diagnose the problem. We can show you all the things, and you still have to do the thing. You still have to do it. We can't make you have a difficult conversation with a client or with a coworker or with a subordinate, whatever. We can't implement the projects for you. We can't change your pricing for you. We can tell you all the things, but we can't do it for you unless... Well, that's a different price point. Yeah, I guess you could. But that's a different price.
Well, I mean, because we're more consultants, there are aspects where we do things for our clients, depending on the type of client that it is, etc. I agree. It is a different price point. And I do want to touch on one thing, because you said something along the lines of, you can disagree with us. Amanda and I have a lot of similarities, but we have a lot of differences too, right? And the way we work with our clients, and even the clients that we personally attract, are different. And I say that because Amanda made a comment like, just do as I say. And I definitely feel that. And I tend to be like, okay, here's all the different solutions. Like, which one are we going to take? And Amanda sometimes, which is quite funny, because in our business, she has a lot of ideas and all of this, but she can be so laser focused. She's like, I see the path, this, and this, which makes her excellent at what she does. And I love that about her, because she will then, depending on the client, do it for them. So disagree, yes, but still like move forward with it. But I would say disagree is different than those that argue. Those that argue with every solution. And I used to be married to somebody who would always do this to me.
It's never going to work.
With my ex. But this is a trait that drives both of us absolutely mad, that when we give a solution or when we give advice, they have to argue at everything. Disagreeing is different than arguing. They have to push back. Okay, well, if that's not going to work, then what is the next solution? Then what is the next solution? Don't give reasons why that won't work. Give other opportunities or solutions or something. Disagree is okay some of the time, but don't argue. We won't work with people who argue with, like, push back on it like that and argue with the advice or the direction.
Because there really is a difference between saying that's not going to work versus saying what would have to happen in order for that to work.
Correct.
I will acknowledge that sometimes Lynn and I jump 50 steps ahead and we see where it's going to work and we see it. And our client isn't there yet. And so sometimes that pushback can be they don't see the 50 steps that we see. And that is a totally fine observation. Like but asking how do I get to a place where that makes sense is a very different thing than saying that's just not going to work for me. And then just, nope, can't work, nothing works. I mean, Lynn has forever said that her is that a motto, a slogan, a tagline? I don't know, forever, for as long as I've known her, has been, no excuses, only solutions for forever. And so when someone can't ever see a solution to anything, it's really hard. It's painful. It's really hard.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. I was just thinking about no excuses, only solutions. I'm like, where the hell did that? Like, I can't remember when it feels like it's always been a part of my life. So
I feel like I've heard you say that since the beginning.
I think so. Another entrepreneur that we won't and can't help are those refusing to change their behavior to make the long-term change. First of all, we have patterns, right? So patterns, and this is something I feel like I pride myself on, being able to see like different patterns, and like it's something that I love to do, but there's patterns. So the rhythm in which things are done, or the 1, 2, 3, if you would. But the behavior is how we engage around it, how we show up personally. And if someone is having bad behavior, unproductive behavior, and not willing to change that, and I would even couple mindset with that, right? If they are refusing to change mindset and behavior around what they're trying to create, then they're not the right people for us, because you can put all the action, put in all the systems, and yeah, you could be uber successful with it, but you are building it on shaky ground with lots of fault lines, because that behavior will come back and bite you in the bud, definitely. And so, and plus, especially if it's bad, it's just shitty people to work with. And at the end of the day, we don't want to be miserable with you. And you might not be a shitty person or a miserable person, but because you're not willing to look at that behavior or put something in our taste, that just, it's not going to be a good match.
I've actually heard this from a former client, emphasis on former. We had tried to have the conversation around mindset. We tried to have the conversation around the way they approached the business and the outcomes of the business. And I will never forget having this conversation where it was like, well, I can't change who I am. You're asking me to change who I am. I'm like, well, first of all, this isn't like, we're not in a relationship like that. And I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm asking you to look at it from another perspective, to open up the possibility to be open to that change. It's not necessarily not ready versus not willing. It's almost like not ready versus not open.
Yeah.
It gives you room for a nuanced conversation. It really is a bit of difference. So, your cash flow is a mess. You've got a family crisis. The timing's all wrong. Like they're trying to survive. We see that a lot in entrepreneurship. That's not ready, or it can feel like it's not ready. But not being open is more like we already said, every suggestion has some defense mechanism behind it. They're looking for validation, but not necessarily perspective on things, or they've hired experts but only want confirmation on what they've already decided, versus hiring the expert and being like, oh shit, I was wrong. They don't want that. They don't want to be told they're wrong. They want growth, but resist every single change that's required to achieve it. Everyone in the world, I feel like, has probably heard the phrase, no growth comes from the comfort zone. And we push that a lot. We definitely push people out of their comfort zones because what you're doing right now that isn't working is the comfortable stuff. And if it were really easy to change and like make all these big growth patterns, you would have already done it. But it's uncomfortable and you don't really necessarily know the right way. And so we work with people who might not see the decision. You know, you can outsource the expertise, but you can't outsource the ownership of it. And there's a lot that's hard to do as an entrepreneur. And so we are not just there for more information, because I think it's Google now. You can Google all the things. So it's not necessarily that people are lacking in information, but I do think they're lacking in the ability to make a decision on that information. And that's another reason why people hire us. So when it comes to hearing people talk about, you know, I can't change who I am, I love when people say that I'm just pessimistic, that's always who I am. I'm like, listen, no one can out pessimism me. That's not it. That's not it. Sorry, not sorry.
I love that. You know, I feel like obviously if you've been listening to us, you know that this one's coming, and Amanda kind of touched on it, but we didn't actually say the word victim mode. We can't help those people because they're not going to get out of their head in their own way. But also I would say on the opposite side, those that are completely full of ego because they know everything, they can't see where change needs to happen. So very light touches on those two things. So we've been asked before, you know, have we ever taken someone that we shouldn't have? So let me ask you that, Amanda.
Many, particularly when I was just starting out, for sure. Because in the very beginning, when I first started as a consultant or a coach consultant, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And it was because I am very money motivated. For those who don't know me, I'm very money motivated.
Okay, Eunice, travel plans. I need to be in New York on Monday, LA on Tuesday, New York on Wednesday, LA on Thursday, New York on Friday. Got it? Got it. So you want to work here. What really makes you think you deserve a job here?
Well, sir, I think on my feet I'm good at figures and have a sharp mind.
Excellent. Can you start on Monday?
Yes, sir, absolutely, without hesitation.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
I just took anybody. I was like, I don't care. I mean, don't quote me on this, but I probably would have taken a bunch of Nazis. Like, I don't care. It was about the money. So in the beginning, I would have taken anybody. I mean, anybody. A murder victim, I'm like a serial killer. It wouldn't have mattered. Fine. So yes, I have taken quite a few clients that I should not have. And I have stayed with clients longer than I should have.
Oh, yeah.
Because I felt guilty.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we started together and I don't dislike them as a person. Like they're fine as people, but they weren't getting the growth they needed because it could be a lot of things, but you know, I wasn't pushing enough, or that we were too buddy and there wasn't enough actual coaching happening, and they were taking everything I said more as like friendship advice versus like, no, this is really how you grow your business. And you know, yes, there's people I've stayed with longer than I should have, and there are people that I absolutely should never have worked with.
We've done a podcast on that, right? Saying no to people and clients. And
yeah, but we didn't like break open
maybe we'll have to break
Pandora's
that one
box.
open. But yeah, I agree. And yes, I mean, I've been consulting for over 15 years. And so definitely kissed a lot of frogs and evolved along the way. But
a lot of asses.
Even right now, I have a particular proposal out. I was actually having a conversation last night with a friend about, you know, I've been engaging with this individual, helping them out on a particular task, and they are so difficult to engage with. And their personality is just like an extreme bull in a china shop. And I don't think it's going to be a right fit. So yeah, when they're here, we're going to have a conversation around that. But it also, I will say, and I know Amanda has learned this too, is like, even if you have somebody who's kind of on the peripheral, like you're not quite sure, you know, if you should take them, or, you know, maybe they're kind of still a good fit, you know, that you can help them, like you can make certain boundaries that will help you navigate that particular relationship. So it's not like always like absolutely not. Sometimes you have to have a conversation and say, okay, these are my boundaries. And I just had to do this a few months ago with a client. These are my boundaries. If we can play within those boundaries, and sometimes they're just self boundaries not spoken to the other, you make sure you're enforcing them, but then you can. But definitely, I mean, time and time again, we have taken people that we shouldn't have, even in the badassory side. And what's interesting about that is because like the BA it's such an open community. I mean, it's structured and all of that, but yeah, we've even taken that. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Well, no matter, I don't care if you're a coach consultant, if you own a fitness studio, if you make pottery, I don't care what your business is. The business always reflects the owner's decisions, always. So this isn't about blame. This is ownership. So when we think of us and the Badass Amplifier and who we brought in, and I think of brick and mortar businesses that I've owned. If you have team issues, like what is it that you're tolerating? If you have sales issues, what conversations are you avoiding? If it's a time issue, like I don't have time for anything, like what haven't you delegated? What aren't you doing? If it's a burnout situation, a lot of people, this burnout's on everybody's tongues these days, but what boundaries have you refused to create? Business is feedback, and it's not necessarily personal, but your business is not there to punish you. Like it is feedback. So your business is constantly going to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not, just like Lynn and I as consultants. And a lot of times entrepreneurs just don't like what it's saying or what we're saying. So it's really hard to work clients who don't see the ownership of it. And then looking back and reflecting on the clients that we have taken that we shouldn't have, it was a direct reflection of what we were avoiding in our own businesses or adding on, depending on what you're looking at. So your business will always reflect your ownership.
That responsibility piece, that ownership piece is super, super important. Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard.
Entrepreneurship is not easy. Like, look, and again, this does not mean that you are not helpable or coachable. Like, this is just us shooting the shit, telling you why we can't help or who we won't help, because of our own understanding of the way we operate, the way that we work with our clients. So internal operation, but also external operation with them. And it's really important for us to know on a personal basis. And we've had many podcasts around this, like, who is your cup of tea, right? Who are you the tea in the cup for? Would that be the right way to say that?
It is now.
Close enough.
And and I also want to say, think about the excuses that you're giving for whether or not something is working or not, because excuses can become your identity. People saying like, I'm not good at sales, or I'm bad with money, or I'm just disorganized, or I'm scatterbrained, or I hate marketing, or like, those aren't personality traits. Those are skill sets. And once you start to identify with that excuse, you're going to stop trying to change it. So you've got to separate the identity out from that. I know it's a little bit of a segue. However, I think it's really important.
It's important
when you're looking at your business.
It is so important. I mean, what we speak is like, it becomes our reality. And so at the end of the day, it's a very important nugget. All right. So those are just some of the reasons we can't help certain entrepreneurs. Or I guess examples of entrepreneurs that we can't or won't help. We'd ask you to do, like, what is your anti-avatar, if you would? Like, do you know who you won't help, regardless if it's a brick and mortar all the way to, whatever, like, who are not your people? Like, get really specific with it. Yeah, because it will help you absolutely navigate your sales and prospecting funnels. Period. And it will also help your referral sources and strategic partners out there really help kind of channel you different clients or different prospects, period.
And if there's one thing you really take away from this, I want you to think, like, it's not whether or not you are good at business. It's about whether you are willing to tell yourself the truth about your business and where it's going and what your part in that is. Every breakthrough that we've seen started with an entrepreneur saying, like, maybe it's not the economy, maybe it's not the market. And this is an example, like, maybe it's the way I'm approaching it. Like, maybe it's not that I'm bad at sales. Maybe it's the way I'm approaching my sales process. Maybe it's not that I'm bad with money. Maybe it's the way I'm looking at it. That's not failure. That is the beginning of growth. And yes, it is uncomfortable. It is brutally, horribly uncomfortable sometimes. Because once you're willing to own your decisions and own the part that you play in your own business and in the outcome of that business, you also get to change that. I mean, you're the problem and the solution. We've said this a lot of times. And that's where real momentum starts. But it takes ownership, and it takes guts, and it takes courage, and it takes also a little bit of grace. You gotta be nice to yourself, because no one else is coming to save you or your business. Right. Unless you hire us, in which case we're coming to save you.
Unless you're not our client.
True.
Not our
But then
client avatar. We won't let you hire us. Anyway, hopefully you got something out of this podcast. Please give a subscribe, a like, and a share to someone who needs to hear this advice, that they're not alone, that there's probably lots of people in your network are being like, there's people I wouldn't help, or there's people, unless you're Walmart, for goodness sakes, which none of us are.
Amazon.
Go ahead and share this with a buddy. See what they take. Leave us a comment below. What did you take away? Or what's something that you won't accept or you can't help as an entrepreneur? Like, what's one of the things that you don't want within your ecosystem of the business?
We want to hear it all. Make sure you are subscribing, commenting, letting us know. And until next time,
get after it. Thanks for tuning in. But remember, listening is not doing.
take what you heard today and move.
Share the episode, leave us a review, and tag us when you take action.
Head over to thepursuitofbadassory.com and see how we're helping entrepreneurs get results without the fluff.
Until next time.
Let's get after it.